First, I want to begin with a type of prediction that was made in the form of literature, a book called The Last President. It was written in the late 19th century, set in a future America. This book depicted a president elected in the middle of a widespread protest and a lot of society division. He was a populist politician that got elected and is the cause of his own country's coming to a complete failure. First, I want to begin with a type of prediction that was made in the form of literature, a book called The Last President. It was written in the late 19th century, set in a future America. This book depicted a president elected in the middle of a widespread protest and a lot of society division. He was a populist politician that got elected and is the cause of his own country's coming to a complete failure. This would describe President Donald J. Trump during his first term, and now even his second term. But let's focus on the first term. There was also many predictions in this book that were made about him being president back in the 19th century by this writer. Now, this would describe President Donald Trump during his first term. But there were also many other predictions that were made about him being president. Let's bring on Marina Abramovic. She's an artist, and if you're not familiar with her, you have definitely been living under a rock on purpose, because this woman is very unusual in how she moves in the world, and she is extremely dark. She's an artist that is very much into the occult and practices something called satanic spirit cooking.
In Lapland, there is a group of the shamans there who do something called collective dreaming. They will go together in seclusion and do the rituals with, eating very little food and being in a solitude for a long time. And they will go and dream the dreams. And the dream have to be collective, same dream. So coming out of this dream, once of the shaman told me that actually the best thing happened in this planet right now is the Trump to be the president. I said, how is this possible? Is the best thing to happen? He said, yes, because he's so irrational, he's so crazy. That's actually create that awakening, that we finally wake up. Because before it will be another guy and everything looks similar. But he's so different than anything else. So he's the magician who waking us up.
So she repeated what she witnessed from these dreamers. And we're now on the second term of Donald Trump. Marina is also close friends with another occult member, and that's Michelle Lamey. That's all that I'm going to say about her, because I need to do another doc on her and how she has influenced Hollywood, fashion, and the music industry, along with Abramovic. One word: real satanic witches. Moving along, getting back to Trump. He was always going to be the one. And another predicting source came from Bashar. Well, Bashar is a type of entity, or what a person by the name of Daryl Anka refers to as an alien that has used his body as a host. This man claims that an alien life form has selected him as a host and gives warnings and supposedly predictions. In my opinion, I think that is satanic. Well, his ailing or demon advised an audience before the 2024 election occurred on who would be elected and what Donald Trump's purpose would be if he is elected. Destruction of a country that leads to chaos and essentially World War III.
Speaking, we are not really allowed to comment deeply on your politics. But since things are changing somewhat in the near future, I am allowed to give you some very general specifics about the election in the United States. However, there must be caveats with this, since we are normally not allowed to comment on such things. There are certain things we can say, but if we say them, because it is your world, are you willing to take responsibility for the responses of your population to what we are about to say? And before you answer, think carefully about what that means. Are you willing to take responsibility for what we are about to say? Be sure the answer is yes.
Yes.
All right. This is what we are allowed to say. The female will lead to open contact. The male will lead to the termination of the United States and World War III. End of comment.
Trump is very important to introduce part 2 of Jared Kushner 666, because he was once the owner of a $1 billion corporate building in Manhattan, New York, that would one day marry into the Trump family and have a considerable amount of influence into this predicted Donald Trump who became the president. So Jared Kushner was once the owner of the infamous corporate building in Manhattan, and it was numbered 666. It was actually the address. The Orthodox Jewish husband to the president's daughter has been able to forge a pathway to a future none of us would have ever suspected in the beginning of Trump's first term. Kushner is the grandson of Holocaust survivors of Ashkenazi descent. His father, who now serves as a prime minister under the second term of Trump's administration, was once described by former Governor Chris Christie as being the most despicable persons he had ever had to face in his former career as a district attorney. Nevertheless, he would be able to send his son, Jared, to Harvard after making a multi-million-dollar donation. But prior to that, Jared had close ties to the current president of Israel. That guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, that would one day carry out war crimes against Palestinians to clear the path for Israel to mobilize occupation onto the Palestinian land. Jared would go on to graduate from a coveted Jewish preparatory school in New Jersey, being labeled an astounding scholar of Hebrew studies. He would even make pilgrimage between Poland to Israel. During the pilgrimage, do you know he actually became a hero, saving one of the girls that were from his group from being SA by a Poland local. Who would have ever thought that this young man would be the one to broker a historic agreement in the ancient lands of Israel between Arab nations and that city of David, right? But the more you evaluate Jared, and the more you realize that he's also been a part of this strange strategy along with his father-in-law to interweave into governments, not only physically, but spiritually. And there's some forces behind these two men that are beyond our realm. So there's only a few conditions for one to be considered the Messiah or Meshua, according to the Jewish faith. One, he could be married, and he is. He's married to Ivanka Trump, who converted to become a modern Orthodox Jew, following and adheres to weekly Shabbat. She follows with her clothing, and her children are being trained Torah at a highly sought-after Hebrew school for children of the faith. Secondly, you have to be an ordained rabbi or of the Levitical priesthood. Do you know that a New York magazine confirmed Kushner stating he absolutely can perform a marriage due to his ordination that he got online? Third is you must be of the line of King David or of the tribe of Judah. And because of his Ashkenazi lineage, the European lineage has no tribe declared. However, due to the science of DNA, it's been heavily assured that this sect of European Jews can mainly trace their lines back to the tribe of Judah. Funny, because this is also the same line that Jesus Christ was born from, and it also derived from the house of David. 4, you must be committed to Torah law. And by now, Kushner's been pretty reputable in his marriage and laws attaining to the Torah from what we can see. 5, political influence. Charismatic leader who can unite the Jewish people and establish a just and thriving Jewish society. Well, Kushner is also treated like a prime minister in Israel. And when he stays for business or leisure, he's treated as such. And the Abraham Accord has cemented his status in political leadership. 6, must be a charismatic leader who can unite the Jewish people and establish a just and thriving Jewish society. Do you know that he orchestrated and leads something called the Peace Institute? He's also brokered land deals in Israel as a real estate investor for himself and Donald Trump. Now, how easy could it be for him to usher in the so-called prophesied city of David and the covenant golden dome there, the jewel of that region? 7, the Messiah is not a deity. Their Messiah is only a man that is divinely selected by their God, born of a regular human woman, not of a virgin, and no miracles are required by him. Now, those are the 7 most important things. But the one thing that really drives all of these factors is that of the late Menachem Mendel Schneerson, or affectionately called Rebbe. He was a rabbi. He was a man that Jared and Ivanka visited his grave right before her father won his first presidential election. Okay, let's break it down. So, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, also known as the Ohel, in his town of Queens, New York. Also, with many sitting United States presidents, he has had much influence, from Jimmy Carter to President Trump. He too was regarded as the peace broker and was very charismatic, influential in governments and political dealings. He was at one time speculated to be that prophesied Messiah. But do you know what he said and was so adamant about, to where he said it as if he had been given a type of cheat sheet? He said that the one is here. Though others were so convinced that he was actually speaking about himself, they believed Schneerson was the one, and they even termed it the Schneerson syndrome. There were posters put up everywhere acknowledging that he may be that one they had been waiting for. And this is called a sect called the Shabbat. And the Kushners had been very generous contributors to those efforts of the Shabbat. This group even has ties between Trump and Vladimir Putin of Russia. They thought he was the one, so much so that a news reporter even speculated and asked him. And when the journalist asked him, Rabbi Schneerson said, "I am not." So when Schneerson died, he left no successor. But the rabbi would repeat this until his death. The Messiah was already here on earth among us. Some were led to believe that he again was referring to himself, and others believed he was referring to another person of interest. So, again, Jared and Ivanka visited the rabbi's grave before the 2016 U.S. presidential election. It was to pray for Donald Trump's victory. Now, he won. And now, going into the second presidential election in October 2024, Donald Trump also visited the rabbi's grave as well. Part 3, coming soon. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching part 2 on Papa Genius on Politics YouTube channel. Thank you so much.